sensitive one. John Howard, he used to be the Prime Minister of Australia. Well, he's sparked a lot of debate because he has described colonisation as
the luckiest thing that's ever happened to his country.
OK, now just think about that, and if you're Aboriginal or whatever, you may have a completely different view of that. But he praised Britain for being a... let me see what he praised Britain for there. Sorry, don't we get so excited there. About being the most benevolent imperial power compared to other European colonisers.
Well, the question today that we're asking is it time for Britain to stop apologising for its colonial past? Well, Rafe Heydel-Mankoo says that former British colonies are some of the most successful countries in the world.
But Narinder Kaur says that colonisation was never a good thing. So, good morning. Very nice to see you both. But, Rafe, you are a child of empire and, my friend, I mean, you're from Kenyan Indian descent. And you think, you're proud of that, and you think that was a good thing?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we have to speak facts here. Colonialism and capitalism together lifted more people out of poverty in the world than any other two forms that we have here. Wherever you go in the world, particularly British colonialism, every region of the world, the most successful, the most democratic, and usually the richest countries are those that have a former colonial British inheritance. That applies to the Americas, South America, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. And there's a reason that Canada, Australia, and New Zealand always rank amongst the 10 best countries in which to live, and that's because of their colonial inheritance. You know, the army, the military, schools, universities, hospitals, the infrastructure of government, the civil service, all of that is due to the British inheritance. And you know, if you look around the world, it's impossible to say that the countries of Africa and Asia and elsewhere would have had the evolution towards democratic legislatures and stable countries were it not for colonialisation.
Well, it's an interesting statement. It's a brave statement. Narinder is, there's steam coming out of her ears.
There really is. I mean, Rafe, you sound quite mad. I mean, I don't know where you get your facts from.
Well, for history books, you should try to read one once in a while.
I don't know which history books you're reading, but they're not correct, because you're talking about benefits to who? Self-indigenous people and people who were colonised. Actually, I call colonisation genocide. Let's speak facts. Your facts are actually British colonisation, genocide, killed...
Genocide is a very difficult word to...
I'll let you speak. Killed hundreds of millions of people. It's murder. There's a legal liability here. They killed hundreds of millions of people colonising the world. And actually, I don't like this argument, Eamon, that actually it was in the past, because you said that in the break, that actually it's in the past, let it go. The ramifications of colonisation are still felt today. Aboriginal people are still the poorest in health, education. An Aboriginal teenager is more likely to go to prison than university.
I'll tell you what I think. I mean, it's very controversial. I mean, I'm from Ireland, and, you know, colonisation there, we still live with today. It's not... I totally understand her into your argument there, but part of me says... look ahead, stop looking back. We can't change the past.
How can you look ahead when you're still suffering? People who were former slaves, their families are still suffering.
No one is suffering from colonialism. Come on, Narinder. You're spouting nonsense. Firstly, hundreds of millions of people...
Hundreds of millions of people were murdered. Rafe, you don't know your facts, and I feel sorry for you.
Narinder may be saying... everything you said may well be true, but Narinder basically is saying... it wasn't worth the price that was paid.
Well, it's absolute nonsense. Firstly, there's no... excuse me, it's now my turn to speak. Thanks so much. Hundreds of millions of people did not die underneath the British Empire.
Yes,
that's complete nonsense. Also, life expectancy for Aborigines for thousands of years had been 40 years of age. You know, they were a Stone Age Paleolithic culture when the British arrived there.
So
they now have life expectancies of 70 years, 30 years longer.
No, that's not correct either.
I'm sorry, I'm giving you the absolute facts here.
Their life expectancy is decades less than white Australians.
And there are many reasons for that, but it's not due to colonialism. Their life expectancy increased by 30 years in 200 years. After tens of thousands of years, it was 40 years. I'm terribly sorry, but you need to go back and do some research.
No, Rafe, you don't know your facts, because actually colonisation or genocide has put Australians, South-indigenous people, behind hundreds of years.
Everywhere you go.
Colonisation put Indians back hundreds of years. You're not right in anything.
Excuse me,
and actually,
under the Raj, the British population...
You can't actually say that because Britain made some trains and we did this and we did that. We did great. You did it for your own benefit.
The Indian population.
The only thing that benefited colonisation was British, their pockets. You lined your pockets
Narinder,
on the backs of
Sorry, can I just make one
Narinder,
point?
I will guess that the general audience that's listening and watching us today will respect what both of you are saying, but they'll say you're losing the argument because he seems very calm about this, and you rightly probably so. You're inflamed about this, aren't you?
Because people died at the hands of British government and the British monarchy.
All right, I'm sorry, can I just interject
here?
here?
Let me finish now.
Well, you've spoken for quite a while,
People
actually.
died,
Okay,
Eamon.
right.
Hundreds of millions of people died.
Okay, how do you respond to
Under
that?
the Indian Raj, the population of India increased from 170 million to 450
20 million died in the Bengal famine.
The whole cyclical famines of India ended because of British storage
Oh, my
techniques
goodness.
and malnutrition
you're a liar.
projects.
You're actually lying about your facts.
Well, I'd love to have a longer discussion where I can expose the nonsense that you're spouting here.
You're spouting
Also,
nonsense on
the
national
British
TV.
advanced women's rights in India. The history of women in India is one of oppression. The British banned sutti, the burning of widows on the funeral pyres. The British stopped the infanticide of girls, and the British allowed Hindu women to remarry.
Killed in 1919. You shot
You
dead
wouldn't be here
children
enjoying the
in
lifestyle you are were it not for the Britain's great
basically what
advances for women. I'm terribly sorry.
Rafe, what you're saying is because Britain, the great British Empire, we went there and we advanced social justices and all that. Therefore, I'm lucky. I'm not lucky if my ancestors were murdered at the hands
Your
of
ancestors
British
are also
generals.
my ancestors. We're both
They were
Sikhs,
murdered,
all right? So don't
therefore.
speak as if you have
People were
complete
murdered.
domain
I'm
over
not
this.
Lucky.
All right?
I'm not lucky.
You are
Indian
absolutely
people,
lucky.
Aboriginal people are not lucky because of British colonisation. British colonisation was genocide.
I'm saying as
And
a
it
woman,
needs
as
to
an
be
Indian woman, you are
acknowledged.
lucky because
I'm
of
not
colonisation,
lucky.
because
I'm
your
not
life
lucky.
would not
I
be
live in
as...
a country where I faced racism. I could have been back home, and actually India could have been richer. Thankfully, we are richer now. Thankfully, 'cause
India is one of the
Yes.
world's 5 most racist countries. I'm terribly sorry to break it to you.
That's got nothing to do with colonisation.